Good morning, everyone. I'm really excited to be here today. Again, my name is Teri Canada. I am principal and co-founder of Evoke Studio in Durham. Two of my partners are here today, Edwin Harris, who's in the back, and Billy Asking over here to my left. How many people here are also from Durham? Anyone else? Cool. So I'm going to ask the crowd right now to give me some love and celebrate Durham by throwing up your Durham song. If anyone knows what this is, my partner's going to be taking a picture, so please throw up high. Woo! Yes, go Durham. All right. Thank you so much for doing that. So our presentation today is really about inclusivity by design. And of course, that's a double meaning because we're talking about design today, but we're also talking about how do you design your life to allow inclusivity. So this is a shot of my daughter and her friends. And my husband and I are so proud of her. At a very young age, she understood the importance of inclusion. And these are some of her friends. And they're lifelong, they will be lifelong friends, we hope. But they've been friends since preschool. And I'm just really excited about that. When I look at this, I think about the future. What will this world look like in 5, 10, 20 years from now? What are we doing to prepare for that world? A world that will be increasingly diverse. I don't think this world will benefit from a society that only focuses on one group of people but allows everyone to be involved. Inclusivity is important in a world that is increasingly diverse. Everyone is welcome. Everyone should be welcomed. Everyone's voice should be heard, and everyone should have equal access. So let me tell you a little bit about myself and why I believe what I do. I'm originally from Greensboro, North Carolina, which is right down the road. I grew up really close to North Carolina A&T State University in an affordable housing complex called Cumberland Courts, and I'll tell you why that's important in a little bit. I grew up with my mom from the age 2 through 10. It was just the two of us. My parents, unfortunately, got divorced very early in my life, but she really influenced me. She really made me the person I am today. My mom's mantra was, treat everyone as you would want to be treated, and everyone is welcome in her home. So I'm going to pause here and just talk to you a little bit about how I was raised. My mom went to A&T which, in the late 50s, early 60s, and so of course she was a part of the sit-ins and civil rights movement that was sparked in Greensboro. She had me at an older age, and so that's why there's such a big gap there, but she was there, and she instilled in me that everyone really needed to share in civil rights and should really have that in their life. And so I was able to learn that because of that happening, the Greensboro school system really made a concerted effort after everything was integrated to bring people together. I was born into this, so I didn't know all the history until I got older, but a lot of the parents of children that were in other areas, including areas that I was raised, were really invested in making sure that kids grew up knowing other people's culture. And so I felt like, looking back, that this was an experiment because schools are not like that today. Unfortunately, schools are becoming increasingly segregated, and due to charter schools and private schools. And I really want to applaud Wake County for what they're trying to do, even though I know that a lot of parents here hate redistricting and all that, but it's important to keep that going because there are a lot of school systems that are not as integrated as they once were. So, all right. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of my architectural influences. I have this on the screen, and I'll talk to you about it in just 1 second, but when I was very young, I really was influenced by my environment. I was very quiet and shy, but very observant. And so, as I mentioned earlier, I grew up in an affordable housing complex called Cumberland Courts in Greensboro. Each unit was basic. You have the cinder block walls, you had the vinyl top floor, and it was just, nothing special. However, my mom was friends with everybody in the community that we lived in, and we were in and out of their houses all the time. And as a young child, I noticed that each unit was distinctly different and really reflected the culture and the personality of the folks that lived there. And so it was amazing as a young child to understand that you can really affect and change space with the slightest thing. The second thing that influenced me was when I was in school, and as I mentioned earlier, a lot of redistricting happened in Greensboro. I went to 4 different elementary schools during that time period. And so one of those really stood out to me. It was called Sternberger Elementary School. And what stood out was they had just built an addition. And in that addition, it was a huge space, not dissimilar to the space we're in right now. They had 4 classes in that one space, high ceilings, cliff story, and a mezzanine that we played on. Now today that would not be acceptable. They would have mezzanines that you could go up and play on because of stairs and people, jumping over the railing. But back then it was amazing to me, and it inspired me. I was like, this really makes me want to learn. I'm interested in being here, and what can I do when I get older to create spaces like that for more people? And then the last example is, as I mentioned, my father and mother separated. However, he had a construction company in Greensboro with his brothers, and they built houses basically. And I would go on site with them and really experience the site, smell the smells and hear the sounds, and it got me excited about being on site. They also used small materials, wood and pieces like that, to build this incredible space. And that blew my mind, at age 7. And so when I got a little bit older, one of my inspirations was Thor Crown Chapel in Arkansas by Faye Jones. Yeah, it was beautiful. And really about the simplicity of the elements to build this incredible structure. He used materials that he could bring in by hand so that he didn't disturb the trees. And really it lets the outside come in. And so if you look at something like this, it really inspires you, right? And so that's one of my inspiration pieces. Let's see. Before we get into Emancipation Park, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my architectural experience. So after high school, I went on to NC State University. Any people out there? All right. So I graduated undergrad in 1995 and went on to 5th year, which is a program that you must go through if you're not going through the master's program in order to become licensed. While there, I was told that I was the first African-American woman to go through that program and graduate. But that was in 1996 when I graduated, and I'm like, this is not 1965, what's going on here? So I thought we need to do more to change that. And then I worked for a while, and I'm not going to go into details with that, but I was able to really start to apply some of the design ideas that I had early on in life. One example I will say, when I got out and started working, I worked for a healthcare firm, and healthcare was not what I wanted to get into when I graduated, but in 1996 there was a recession, and that was the firm that was hiring in Durham. It was called Isley Hawkins, and they had a lot of work for do. So I learned a lot by working for them. I was able to get information that will allow me to pass my exams with flying colors. But one thing that stood out, I was really able to use what I was interested in a project. It was a Duke Cancer Center, and there it was the first foray into really public engagement, because we were able to talk to doctors, patients, nurses about what they wanted to experience when they came to the space. And we were really able to design something that made them feel welcome, comfortable, and really allowed them to feel at home. So that was, even though I was at the healthcare architecture firm, I was able to really start to look at some design experience there. So moving on, I was licensed in 2005. And at that time, I was one of 5 African-American women architects to become licensed in the state. That was 2005, so again, that was shocking. But I think now it's closer to 20, and so that's a really good thing. I worked at, along with Edwin and Billy, the Freelon Group. Have any of you guys heard of that? Bill Freelon, yes. It was was an amazing experience, and it allowed us to really look at the world of cultural, civic, and higher ed architecture. One of the projects that I had the privilege of working on was Emancipation Park. Edwin and I worked on this project for 7 years, and it involved a high level of public engagement. This project was about celebrating the history and culture of the people of the 3rd Ward in Houston, Texas. And so this was a park that really was in an underserved area. It really was dilapidated and was only used by folks who were up to no good, basically. And so they brought us in to take a look at that history. The history of the park included 4 enslaved individuals that came to this site that had the freedom after after 1865, and purchased this land with $500, which was amazing. And they built a whole community around this park. So if you look at some of the historical images of that time, it's really amazing to see, right? So we had community engagement sessions, which allowed the public to come in and really talk about what they wanted to see in their community. And, this is really important because up until this time, they were either told what they needed or, given whatever leftovers. This time, they were able to really express what they wanted. And as they expressed that, we interpreted what they were looking for into some overall designs of the site, really organizing the site so that they could build what we're calling the Founders Promenade, which would celebrate the founders of the park. And this is what Emancipation Park looks like today. So this is a new building, new rec center. We changed the old rec center and transformed it to their community center. And this pool, which has great significance, it was the first pool for African Americans in Houston. And so, this is the only place that they could come and swim. And then if you look at the park, really organized, let's see if I can do this to work, around this promenade here, which I'll show some close-ups later of the design of sculptures that are there. If you look at the use of materials, the rust color trestle panels that we used really harken back to the old shotgun houses that are around that have the rusted roofs. And so that brings out those ideas without blasting in your face. It's still a subtle nod to that. Also, we had the idea of the front porch roofs, which was really important in the South in African American culture. So these are just some shots of the interior. This is the Blessings Theater, which was there already. It's a part of the building. But they had closed it in and put an HVAC system inside. So it was not even used. And so we told them that this was a great resource for them to use. And they really, latched onto that idea. Again, the front porch, these are modernized shelters that really look at that. There's one that has rocking chairs that just sort of really lets you know that this is the South. This is one of the monuments that was designed by Edwin. It really is talking about, it's a gateway arch that allows them to celebrate Juneteenth. This is where Juneteenth was really started, right here in Houston. And so they wanted something that was ceremonial, that every year during that time, they could put either a chain or a rope across there and cut it and allow people to flow through. So this serves as a sculpture during the other times of the year, but it really is a monument for them to use during that celebration. And you can see this is directly from the owner. It's saying, "Congratulations, Teri and Edwin. I'm proud of y'all and everything you did to make Emancipation Park a truly special place." And that's significant. It means a lot to us that we, were able to listen to the needs and understand what they needed and really design something special for them. So let me tell you a little bit about Evoke. And I'll talk about some of our projects now. We are located in downtown Durham. If you guys have ever been down there near the Central Park District, Live is right there. I'm sure you're familiar with that. So if you're ever there for donuts, please stop in and see what we're up to. Again, this is myself and my 2 partners. We really, when we decided to start the firm, thought, we all complemented each other. Edwin is a strong designer, Billy a strong designer and technical person, and then me who had strong project management skills and design eye. So Evoke. What does that mean to us? It means to purposely draw out what is hidden, latent, or reserved. And so that's what we do on a day-to-day basis. We really want to be a voice for the communities that don't have a voice right now. And we want to, allow them to shine. And so that's what we do every day. One of the projects that we started our company on was Mary Potter Academy. And again, I'm sure some of you have never heard of this story, right? So this allows them to showcase to people who would never know their history, what was going on there. So Mary Potter Academy was founded in the late 1800s so that African-American children could go to school and get a really good education. This was a campus that was built in Oxford, North Carolina. And people sent their kids here from all over the country because there was no other school like it. And so we were asked by their alumni association, and I must say the school existed up until the 1970s, until integration happened. And so there are remnants of that school today. Students in that school, faculty and staff, built the buildings that were on the site. Very impressive. And so there are 3 buildings that were there that are still remaining. And they asked us to take a look at them, reinterpret what they could do in those spaces, and really also pay tribute to the history. So the existing buildings were a museum, an industrial arts building, and a gymnasium that we transformed into a community center and a event space similar to this space here. The event space would allow them to generate income, and the community center would allow folks to use it as a resource. And so these are some images of what we were able to create from the existing. And you'll notice in a lot of these photos, there are gallery spaces for us to really show images of the past and let people really understand what went on here. One thing I'm really excited about, and we had an open house for this week, was the North Carolina Central Television Studio. We had never done a TV studio before, but we went after this project and really saw the potential of giving them a little bit more than what they were asking for. If you look here on the plan, some of the images, the space were really stark, really had the old equipment. They came to us and said, we want new equipment, and that's it. And we asked them about how to use the space, and they basically said it didn't work. So we came up with a new layout for the space, and then we asked them, okay, so what type of experience do you want to have here? Do you want a brand? Do you want to make it exciting? And they're like, sure, why not? We visited WRAL Studios, and they got some ideas from that. This is the Chancellor at the ribbon cutting on Tuesday. You can see some of the spaces. This was a rendering of the early design. It's a tiny space, but we really wanted to give them something impactful, so this is what that space looks like now. Yeah. The students here are now given access to technology and a space that they never had before and wouldn't have had this not happened for them. They'll be prepared to work in the real world, and they'll feel very confident about their space right now. This is the last project that I'm going to show, and it's Pettigrew State Park. Has anyone heard of Pettigrew State Park, by the way? You have? Okay, good. So this is in Creswell, North Carolina. And we were invited to design visitor centers at 2 parks. One is here at Pettigrew State Park, and the other was at Chalkies Ridge. So Pettigrew State Park is unique. Most of the stories that we tell through design are of the African-American experience. But we're now looking here at Pettigrew State Park at many different experiences. This was the site of a slave plantation, and so there's that history. This was a site of where original natives lived, and some of their artifacts are still in place, and so there's that history. Then there's the natural beauty of Lake Phelps, and if you ever have a chance to go, please do. It's a wonderful place. So we were asked to take all of these many elements, draw from them, and sort of build a visitor center that reflected that history. So this is a model that was built. What you're looking looking at really, and it's about the porch. Again, that southern idea of porch. But it's modernized here because instead of a screen, there's a perf panel that comes down and wraps around the building. It really gives it an elegance. The centerpiece, which is the main office and visitor center, is really just a simple box. But we allowed that front porch to envelop it and really give it a presence. And so you get an understanding. It's a very rural area. It's sitting in the middle of nowhere, but it really draws you in because of that design. Okay, so you've seen some of our work, and we're excited about it, and we look forward to doing more work soon. I want to mention that project actually won an AIA award last month, or this month, yeah. So we're excited about that. One other thing that we love to do is we aspire to positively impact our community. So we love to have outreach programs. This is a group of girls from Greenville, North Carolina that came to our office, and they have a program set up for girls to visit different places and look at occupations that they normally wouldn't go after. And so they called me and said, most of these girls are really interested in architecture. And so they came in, and a lot of them were really, really interested after they left, so we're excited about that. We'll have some future architects in the group. And this is me showing them Mary Carter campus, just explaining the project and how impactful it is. These are some other images of different groups that we've had. We have very young kids come to the office who are excited about putting things together and building. And then we have students who are almost ready to go to college and really didn't understand what architecture was about. And so we were able to focus them on the career path and really get them to understand what they needed to do to get them to the next level. So it's important to reach back and propel forward by propelling forward. Revealing what they did not know was within them. And so when they come into the space, they don't understand, what is possible. And so, we tell them what's possible and they get excited about it. We teach them to use their voice to tell their story. No one has listened to them before, but we've shown them that people are ready to listen now. It's a very positive and powerful thing. And we also give them access to experiences they would not normally have. And that's important. It's very key. So I'm going to ask you to look inside yourselves and do some of these things in your own life to allow inclusivity. Encourage and mentor young people if you can. That's very important. Invite people into your creative spaces and show them what is possible. You may not think that a certain kid from a certain area would be interested in what you're doing, but there's so much potential out there. And just look at me, because I didn't know anything about architecture before a certain age, really. Until somebody said, this is what that is, and this is what you should be doing. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for that person. Think about how to make amenities and experiences accessible to all people. When you're in a space, when you're a part of a group, or you're experiencing something and you look around and everyone looks like you, think about why. And it may be, the reason may not be because people don't want to join you, but they don't understand that they're included. So reach out to them, talk to them, understand them, and invite them in. And so I hope to leave you guys with that. I'm very excited that I was able to share with you today some of our work at Evoke and share a little bit about my life. So thank you guys.
Thank you so much, Teri. So we have a couple minutes for a couple questions from the audience. Questions? Yeah, normally I get to hang out on the side, but this time in particular, I wanted to make sure I got all of that presentation absolutely beautifully done. Thank you.
I was curious if you could tell us a little bit about the Jockey's Ridge event,
sure.
Just because it's near and dear to me.
And this is a project that Billy is actually leading up. So Jockey's Ridge needs a refresher, and they've asked us to come in and look at a way of giving them a new entrance and route through the building, and then develop exhibits to include, because right now they're pretty old, some of them don't work. And so with that project, we really took a look at, we went through through the same process of looking at the surroundings and the history of the place. I wish I had an image of it for people to see, but we've transformed the entrance, and it's going to be a beautiful space, but we are working within the boundaries of the existing footprint. There is one addition to the building. We're also excited from that project. We were asked to take a look at the Regala Museum, which they're planning to put right next to Jockey's Ridge. They need to fundraise and get that going, but it's really celebrating the Regalas who actually developed the Delta Wing, which led to parasailing, hang gliding, and all that good stuff. One funny story is that we were invited to actually hang glide. I have video proof of that. I'm not going to show it, but it was amazing, and that's something I've never done. So it gave me access to something I had never done by being a part of that project. And so it's great to be in this field. You get to do so many different things. And so, yeah, thank you for the question. I know this guy, so it better not be
So yesterday I was listening to a podcast from Maggie Kane with A Place at the Table, and she told a story about how she was trying to find some real estate, and she found a spot she thought was great, and the owner didn't share her vision for inclusivity. He basically said, I don't want those kind of people around here. Have you ever had an experience with one of your owners that didn't really share your vision of inclusivity, or did they hire you because of your vision of inclusivity? Are you kind of the secret sauce for this kind of stuff?
I would say more the last part of that. Yes, people are understanding who we are and really excited about what we're doing and asking us to work on specific projects that will allow for that. I think we don't look for clients that wouldn't be. I mean, I don't know really anybody that wouldn't want to be inclusive, but if they came to us and said something like that, I mean, just look at us. I mean, I don't think they would even have that, in their heart when they came to us. But if they did, I just, if we had a difference of opinion on that, we would try to, number one, influence them to change their mind. But if not, then we would have to move on because we're on about that. It's just not in us. Yeah. Thank you.
What would be a future project that would be like a dream, like something you've always wanted to design or be a part of?
Well, so at Freeline, we were a part of the National Museum in D.C. So that's kind of like the upper echelon of projects. And we would love to do something like that had true historical significance that reflected our community and culture that was on the national stage, because we know we could knock it out of the park. But we are really interested in the small, unique projects that are local and also do the same thing. So, coming out, we weren't sure that this would be well received. It was well received in Freeline because he was known for that, right? Came out, and when we told people who we are and what we do, everyone just looked like wanting to help and trying to find projects for us. So it's been a really positive thing for us. Thank you. Yes.
Do you prefer doing projects within North Carolina and Freeline throughout national and professional? Would you prefer moving forward? Did you do more local projects than or just changing?
Well, I would say this. I really enjoyed traveling all over the country and would love to do that again. I would say that right now, the stage that my daughter is in, this has allowed me to stay local and be more included in her life, so that's a blessing to me. However, if I need to travel, I'm going to do it, and I have a very supportive husband who, when she was very young, was there while I traveled around, so, yeah. Thank you.
When working with communities that haven't traditionally had the representation and the voice and the empowerment that they deserve, and you're coming in as an external party, how do you build that trust with those communities?
Right. So thinking back to Emancipation Park, they had, before we were invited to be a part of the project, they had groups coming in telling them what they should have there. And they were very distrustful when we came, even though everyone knew who Phil Freeland was. And really, what we're going to do to the park, what is our motivation, that overrides whatever they're wanting. And just spending time with them. We traveled around the country showing them similar parks and similar monuments, building that bond, getting the local leaders and influencers involved, and then spreading the word that we were good people. I think that really helped. So, yeah. Thank you.
Hey, so today is National Arbor Day, so I'd like to hear how you incorporate green space into your architectural projects.
Right. So again, I'm going to go back to Emancipation Park, and really for that project, we were very conscious of the old 100-year-old live oak trees that were there, beautiful structures, and looked at where the new building should be placed, and making sure that if any were disturbed, there would be one. And then we moved a lot of trees on that project in a respectful way. I am a tree hugger, and I don't ever want to see trees torn down, but I'm also an architect who likes to see things being built. So there's always that, dichotomy. And so I personally look for projects that respected nature, and then projects that needed landscape added, really looking at how you can add a landscape that is respectful of the site, respectful of the original landscape that's there. Pettigrew State Park is an example, because there are a lot of grasses, natural grasses and marshland near the building site. And so we looked at a site that was appropriate for that. But we're going to allow natural grasses to be around and build elevated walkways to get to the building. So, yeah. Thank you for that question.
You mentioned at the end to promote inclusivity that people should mentor young people. Could you speak specifically to your experience and how mentorship entered your life, and what particularly they said to draw the architect out of you?
So actually my mom really was interested in architecture, and she would put little seeds in my head, but she would put me in front of local architects in Greensboro and get me interested and excited about what was going on. And before I went to NC State, I met up with a guy who had been through their program before, and he let me know what the program was really about. It was more about the artistic side, the design side, and less about the technical side. And so that got me excited, because when I was younger, I liked to sketch, paint. I was also in performing arts. And so just a lot of things came together and gelled and influenced me. I didn't really have a lot of mentors in the field. And so when I got out and started working, and Edwin was the same way, we felt like it was important for us to reach back, because we were sort of flying blind, and there's no reason for that to happen to younger kids today. So that's my experience.